She was blamed for losing the multi-million-dollar contract. Until the recording was played. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us begin, and let us come back to our main character. The room is silent in a way that feels heavy, almost physical. The kind of silence that presses against your chest and makes it hard to breathe. 20 people sit around a long walnut conference table on the 42nd floor, all eyes fixed on one woman standing at the far end. Her name is Emily Carter. She is holding a thin folder against her stomach, her fingers clenched so tightly that her knuckles have turned white. Across from her, a wall of glass reveals the Manhattan skyline, sharp and distant, like it does not belong to her world at all. This contract was worth $52 million, a senior executive says, his voice calm but unforgiving. And it collapsed after your final call with the client. Emily feels the words land like blows. $52 million. A number so large it barely feels real. A number now hanging entirely over her head. She opens her mouth to speak, but nothing comes out at first. The dryness in her throat burns. She swallows hard. I followed the approved terms, she finally says. Her voice is steady, even though her heart is not. I did not change a single condition without written consent. A few people exchange looks. No one speaks up for her. At the far end of the table, someone clears their throat. Another executive leans back in his chair, arms crossed, already disengaged. The client claims you pressured them, the first man continues. They say you threatened to withdraw support unless they signed immediately. Emily's stomach drops. That is a lie. She knows it. But knowing something is true does not mean anyone else believes it. I would never do that, she says. That call was professional. It was recorded on their end, not mine. I do not control what they choose to say afterward. The chairwoman taps her pen against the table, slow and deliberate. Intentions aside, she replies, the outcome is clear. The board needs accountability. Accountability. Emily has heard that word before. It usually means one thing for people like her. Dex. Sacrifice. She glances around the room again. These are people in tailored suits and polished shoes. People with stock options and golden parachutes. People who will still be fine tomorrow. She will not. This job is not just a job to her. It is her health insurance, her rent, her chance to finally stop living paycheck to paycheck after 10 years of clawing her way up from an unpaid internship. One wrong move, and all of it disappears. A man near the window finally speaks, his tone neutral, almost bored. Emily, are you prepared to take responsibility for the loss? Her pulse pounds in her ears. This is it. The moment everything tilts. She takes a breath, straightens her shoulders, and lifts her chin. No, she says quietly, because I did nothing wrong. The silence that follows is even colder than before. Somewhere behind her, a door clicks shut. A late arrival has entered the room, but no one turns to look. All attention remains fixed on Emily, the woman everyone has already decided to blame. She does not know it yet, but this is the last moment she will ever stand alone in that room. Emily remains standing long after the question has been asked. The boardroom feels colder now, as if the air conditioning has been turned up without anyone touching the controls. Her heartbeat is loud in her ears, steady but relentless, counting down something she cannot see. She knows what this moment means. If she says the wrong thing, she will not just lose this job. She will lose everything that came with it. 2 years ago, Emily was living in a studio apartment in Queens with a radiator that hissed all night and a window that never quite closed. She took the subway before sunrise every morning, balancing a paper coffee cup in one hand and a laptop bag in the other, rehearsing presentations in her head just to feel prepared. This position was not handed to her. She earned it one late night, one impossible deadline, one overlooked success at a time. The contract they are talking about today was supposed to change her life. If it closed, she would finally qualify for a full bonus. She would pay off the last of her student loans. She would stop calculating grocery bills down to the dollar. She would breathe. Now that same contract is being used to bury her. Emily looks down at the folder in her hands. Inside are notes she prepared for a follow-up call that never happened. Bullet points. Timelines. Everything she did by the book. None of it matters anymore. The chairwoman watches her closely, eyes sharp, waiting for a crack. Emily recognizes that look. It is the look of someone who has already made a decision and is only going through the motions. You were the final point of contact, the chairwoman says. That places responsibility on you. Emily nods slowly, forcing herself not to react emotionally. She has learned that lesson the hard way. Emotion is often mistaken for guilt. I understand responsibility, she replies, but responsibility and blame are not the same thing. The words hang in the air. Someone exhales softly. Someone else looks away. Emily feels it then, the shift. The room has already moved on from listening. They are measuring consequences now, not truth. Her mind races forward, uninvited. She sees her manager asking for her badge. She sees the polite human resources meeting. She sees the email sent company-wide, careful and vague, explaining her departure. She sees herself packing a cardboard box under fluorescent lights. The man near the window finally speaks again, his tone smooth, practiced. We are not questioning your character, he says. We are addressing outcomes. We are addressing outcomes. We are addressing outcomes. We are addressing outcomes. Emily almost laughs. Outcomes do not pay rent. Outcomes do not explain gaps on a resume. Outcomes do not care how hard you work to get here. She straightens her back. With respect, she says, if you are asking me to accept responsibility for something I did not do, then you are not looking for accountability. You are looking for a convenient conclusion. That gets their attention. The chairwoman narrows her eyes. Are you refusing to cooperate? Emily feels the weight of the question pressed down on her chest. This is the moment where most people fold, where they apologize for things they never did, just to soften the landing. She thinks of every morning she showed up early. Every night she stayed late. Every time she chose integrity over shortcuts because she believed it would protect her in the end. She lifts her head. No, she says. I am refusing to lie. Silence returns, heavier than before. Behind her, the late arrival remains quiet, unseen, listening. Emily does not know it yet, but she has just crossed the point of no return. Emily stays where she is, even as the discussion begins to drift away from her words and toward procedure. That is how it always happens. First, they listen. Then, they decide. And once they decide, everything else becomes background noise. As the chairwoman flips through a digital report on her tablet, Emily's mind slips backward, not by choice, but by instinct. 3 days ago, the call. She remembers it clearly, because it felt wrong from the very beginning. The client had requested a last-minute conference call late in the evening. No video, audio only. That alone was unusual for a deal of this size. Still, Emily accepted. She always did. Flexibility was part of why she had been trusted with the account in the first place. The client sounded tense, distracted. Someone else was in the room with them. She could hear movement in the background, muffled voices she could not quite make out. Halfway through the call, something unexpected happened. The client paused and said, "That is not what we discussed earlier." Emily had frowned, confused. She pulled up her notes immediately, scanning them line by line. "I am looking at the approved terms right now," she replied calmly. Nothing has changed. There was a brief silence on the other end. Then the call continued, awkwardly, carefully, like both sides were stepping around something unseen. Afterward, Emily sat at her desk longer than usual. She trusted her memory, but experience had taught her something else as well. When things go wrong, details matter, and details disappear quickly. So she did something small, something routine. She saved the internal call log. She backed up her notes, and she exported the audio file from her desk phone system, labeling it with the date and time. Not because she expected trouble, but because she had learned to protect herself quietly. Back in the boardroom, someone clears their throat. The client insists there was undue pressure, an executive says. They claim your tone crossed a line. Emily looks up sharply. My tone? Yes, he replies. They said you implied consequences if they delayed. Emily feels a flash of anger, hot and brief. Then it fades, replaced by something colder. She remembers her own voice on that call. Controlled. Measured. Professional. I did not imply anything, she says. And there is no evidence that I did. The man shrugs slightly. That may be difficult to prove. Emily tightens her grip on the folder. Evidence. The word echoes in her mind. She does not say anything else. She does not mention the file. Not yet. Years of navigating corporate politics have taught her that timing matters more than truth. Say something too early, and it gets dismissed. Say it too late, and it gets ignored. Around the table, the mood hardens. The conversation shifts toward next steps. Risk mitigation. Damage control. Someone suggests issuing a public statement. Someone else suggests restructuring the account team. No one looks at Emily anymore. Behind her, the man who arrived late remains silent. He has not taken a seat. He has not checked his phone. He is watching the room with careful attention, as if he is not here to speak but to understand. Emily senses the shift but does not turn around. Her thoughts stay fixed on one thing. The recording, the small, ordinary file saved on a secure server. The one detail that does not fit the story they are constructing. She does not know yet whether she will be allowed to use it, but she knows this. If the truth comes out, it will not come gently. And when it does, this room will never sound the same again. The conversation moves on without Emily. That is how she knows she is losing. They stop asking her questions. They stop acknowledging her presence. The language in the room changes, shifting from direct accusation to quiet logistics, as if her fate is already sealed and all that remains is cleanup. We should consider reputational exposure, someone says. Yes, and client reassurance, another adds. We cannot appear unstable. Emily stands there, listening to her career being reduced to bullet points and contingencies. No one says her name anymore. The chairwoman glances down at her tablet again. Emily, she says at last without looking up. Human resources will follow up with you after this meeting. That is it. Not a verdict, not a sentence, just a procedure. Emily feels the weight settle fully now. The pressure behind her eyes, the tightness in her chest. She keeps her face still, because she knows better than to let them see anything that looks like weakness. Across the table, her direct manager finally speaks. Emily, he says gently, in the voice people use when they want to sound fair. If you acknowledge a misstep, even unintentionally, it gives us room to negotiate internally. She turns to him slowly. Acknowledge a misstep, she repeats. You mean admit fault? He spreads his hands. I mean protect the company. There it is. The truth, finally said out loud. Emily looks around the room again. Really looks this time. Faces she has worked beside for years. People she thought respected her. Some avoid her gaze. Others watch with detached curiosity, like this is a case study rather than a human being unraveling in real time. She understands the unspoken message. Take the blame quietly. And this ends quickly. Refuse. And it gets ugly. If I sign a statement, she asks carefully, what happens next? Her manager hesitates. Just long enough. We would describe your departure as mutual, he says. There would be a severance package. Emily almost smiles. A mutual departure. A clean exit. A polite lie wrapped in legal language. And afterward, she would be alone with the truth and a resume that no longer explains itself. I did not make a mistake, she says again, her voice steady but low. And I will not sign something that says I did. A faint ripple of irritation moves through the room. The chairwoman finally looks up, her expression cool. Then you leave us very few options. Emily nods once. She expected that answer. She glances toward the door, already imagining the walkout. The elevator ride down, the call she will have to make to her landlord later that night. Behind her, the man who arrived late shifts his weight slightly. For the first time, Emily feels the presence of someone else in the room who has not written her off. She does not turn around, but the awareness sharpens, like a subtle change in air pressure before a storm. The chairwoman taps her pen again. "Unless there is anything further," she says, "we will adjourn." Emily takes a slow breath. This is the moment they expect her to give in. She does not, and somewhere behind her, a voice that has been silent until now prepares to speak. The chairwoman's pen stops tapping. "Unless there is anything further," she repeats, "this meeting is adjourned." A chair scrapes softly as someone begins to stand. Then a voice cuts through the room. "Wait." It is calm, low, unhurried. Every movement freezes. Emily feels it before she understands it. The shift, the sudden tension pulling everyone's attention away from her and toward the back of the room. The man who arrived late steps forward into the light. He has not raised his voice. He has not rushed. He simply walks to the end of the table and rests one hand on the polished wood, as if this meeting has always belonged to him. "I believe there is something you should hear," he says. The chairwoman frowns. "And you are?" He does not answer the question right away. Instead, he looks past the table and directly at Emily for the first time. "Do you still have the file?" he asks. Her breath catches. For a split second, she wonders if she imagined the words. If this is just another attempt to control the narrative. Then she realizes something else. He knows. "Yes," she says carefully. "I do." The man nods once. "Good." Confusion ripples through the room. "What file?" The man turns slightly, addressing the table without urgency. "The audio recording from the client call 3 days ago." The chairwoman stiffens. "There is no such recording on record." "There is," he replies. "It was saved through the internal desk phone system, time-stamped. Unedited. We have ended. We have undid. We have dull have ended." Silence slams down like a door. Emily's heart begins to pound, harder now, faster. She feels heat rush through her chest, a mix of fear and something else she has not allowed herself to feel yet. Hope. Her manager looks at her sharply. "Emily, why was this not disclosed earlier?" She meets his gaze. "Because no one asked me if it existed." The man at the end of the table lifts a hand slightly. "We are not here to debate timing," he says. "We are here to establish facts." He looks at the chairwoman. "Unless you prefer to make a final decision without all available information." The challenge hangs in the air. After a long moment, the chairwoman exhales. "Fine," she says. "Play it." It's fashion and gratifying of the tom. Emily's hands shake as she steps forward. She places the folder on the table and pulls out her phone, connecting it to the conference system with movements she has rehearsed 1,000 times in her head and never expected to use. The screen lights up. She presses play. Her own voice fills the room first. Calm. Professional. Clear. "I am looking at the approved terms right now," the recording says. "Nothing has changed." Then the client's voice follows. Uneasy. Uncertain. A pause. Another voice enters the recording. Quieter, but unmistakable. Not the client. Someone else. A voice that says, "If they delay again, remind them what happens to support next quarter." Emily hears a sharp intake of breath from across the table. The recording continues. Her voice responds, firm this time. "That is not appropriate. We are not discussing consequences. We are discussing timelines." The audio ends. No one speaks. The truth does not need commentary. It sits there, heavy and undeniable. Emily stands perfectly still, her heart racing. Behind her, the man who asked for the recording straightens. "That," he says evenly, "is what actually happened." And for the first time since this meeting began, the balance of power shifts. No one moves. The recording has ended, but its echo still fills the room, louder than any argument that came before it. The air feels charged now, tight with realization and fear. Several executives glance at one another, then instinctively toward the man standing at the end of the table. The chairwoman is the first to speak, her voice measured but strained. "That voice," she says slowly, "does not belong to the client." "No," the man replies, "it belongs to someone inside this company." A murmur spreads around the table. Emily feels her legs weaken slightly, but she stays upright. She keeps her eyes forward, afraid that if she looks at him too long, this moment will break apart. The chairwoman straightens in her seat. "This recording changes the context," she says carefully. "But it does not explain your involvement." The man finally allows himself a small pause. "You are right," he says. "I have not introduced myself." He reaches into the inside pocket of his jacket and removes a slim leather card holder. He places it on the table and slides it forward. "I am Daniel Whitmore," he says calmly, "Chief Executive Officer of Whitmore Holdings, and as of last quarter, the majority stakeholder of this company." The room reacts instantly. Chairs shift. Someone inhales sharply. Another executive mutters his name under their breath, as if saying it too loudly might make things worse. Emily's heart stutters. Chief Executive Officer, majority stakeholder. The realization crashes into her all at once. He is not an observer. He is not a consultant. He is not here by accident. He owns this room. Daniel continues, his tone even. "I attended this meeting quietly because I wanted to understand how decisions are made when pressure is applied. What I have just heard answers that question." The chairwoman's face tightens. "Mr. Whitmore, we were unaware you planned to participate today." "I planned to listen," he replies. "And I did." He turns slightly, his gaze sweeping the table. "What I heard was an attempt to assign blame where it does not belong in order to protect someone else." Eyes dart around the room. Daniel looks back at Emily. "Emily Carter followed protocol," he says. "She challenged an inappropriate directive, and she documented it. That is not a failure. That is professionalism." For the first time since the meeting began, Emily feels the weight on her chest begin to lift. Her manager opens his mouth, then closes it again. The chairwoman clears her throat. "If there was internal misconduct," she says, "we will of course investigate." "We are past investigation," Daniel replies. "We have evidence." He gestures toward the table. The recording establishes intent. The timeline establishes opportunity. And the silence in this room establishes awareness. The words land with precision. Daniel straightens, his presence suddenly unmistakable. This meeting is no longer about damage control. It is about accountability. Emily exhales slowly. Moments ago, she was alone. Now, the most powerful person in the room is standing between her and the outcome they tried to force on her. And everyone knows it. The room feels different now. Not tense. Exposed. Daniel Whitmore does not raise his voice. He does not need to. Authority settles naturally around him, filling the space the moment he finishes speaking. He turns his attention to the far right side of the table. "Mark," he says. The man flinches. "Mark Reynolds, Senior Vice President, the same executive who first accused Emily of crossing a line with the client. The same voice Emily recognized in the recording, even before she wanted to admit it to herself." "Yes?" Mark replies, forcing a smile that does not reach his eyes. Daniel tilts his head slightly. "Would you like to explain why your voice appears on a client call you were not authorized to join?" The smile disappears. "I was advising," Mark says quickly. "Strategically. The pressure to close that deal was intense." "Advising," Daniel repeats. "By instructing a client to threaten future support." Mark shifts in his chair. "It was not a threat. It was context." Daniel does not react immediately. He simply looks at him. "Context," he says at last, "is not something you whisper off record." A few people lower their eyes. The chairwoman clears her throat again, more urgently this time. "If there was a lapse in judgment, we can address it internally." Daniel turns to her. "We are addressing it internally." He looks back at Mark. "You placed a subordinate in an impossible position. You violated compliance. And when the deal collapsed, you allowed her to take the blame." Mark opens his mouth. Nothing comes out. Daniel nods once. "You are suspended, effective immediately, pending formal termination. Security will escort you from the building." The words land like a hammer. Mark's chair scrapes backward, loudly as he stands. "This is an overreaction," he says. "I have been with this company for 15 years. And today," Daniel replies calmly, That ends. Two security officers step into the room. The sight of them seals it. Mark's face drains of color as he gathers his things with shaking hands. No one intervenes. No one intervenes. No one defends him. As he is escorted toward the door, Emily feels something she did not expect. Relief and vindication. The door closes behind him with a soft final click. Daniel turns back to the table. "Let us be clear," he says. Emily Carter did exactly what this company claims to value. She acted ethically. She documented misconduct. And she refused to lie when pressured. It's bod. He looks at Emily again. For that, he continues, she will not be punished. A breath Emily did not realize she was holding finally escapes her. The chairwoman nods stiffly. Her record will reflect that. It will reflect more than that, Daniel says. Her record will reflect commendation. A ripple of surprise moves through the room. Daniel straightens. This meeting is adjourned. Human Resources will coordinate next steps. Emily, please stay. Emily, please stay. Chairs begin to move. People stand, collecting papers, avoiding eye contact as they file out. Emily remains where she is. Moments ago, she was preparing to lose everything. Now, the truth has done what it always does when given room to speak. It has named the guilty, and it has set her free. The boardroom empties quickly. One by one, executives file out, their footsteps subdued, their conversations reduced to murmurs that fade down the hallway. No one looks directly at Emily as they pass her, not out of hostility, but something closer to discomfort. They have just witnessed a reckoning. The door closes softly behind the last person. For the first time since the meeting began, the room is quiet in a different way. Not heavy, not threatening, just still. Emily remains standing near the end of the table, unsure whether she should sit or speak or wait. Her hands finally begin to tremble now that there is no audience left to impress. Daniel Whitmore watches her for a moment before speaking. "You can sit," he says gently. She does, easing into the chair as if her body is only now realizing how long it has been holding itself together. The adrenaline begins to drain, leaving behind exhaustion that settles deep in her bones. Daniel takes the seat across from her, no longer looming, no longer distant. Just a man now, composed but attentive. "You handled that well," he says. Emily lets out a quiet breath that almost sounds like a laugh. "I did not feel like I had many choices. That is often when people show who they really are," Daniel replies. "When there are no good options." She nods slowly. For a moment, neither of them speaks. The city hums faintly through the glass behind them, traffic moving on as if nothing monumental has just happened 40 floors above it. "I want to be clear," Daniel continues. "What happened today should not have required my intervention. Systems failed you." Emily looks down at the table. "I believed the system would protect me," she admits. "I was wrong." Daniel does not contradict her. "Belief is not the same as safety," he says. "That is something I am working to change." He slides a thin folder across the table toward her. Inside are documents. Official, clean, final. "I am reassigning you," he says. Effective immediately. Her heart skips. "Just once. To lead the new Compliance and Client Integrity Initiative," he continues. "Direct access to my office, independent authority, and the resources to do it properly." Emily looks up, stunned. "You want me to lead it?" "I want the person who refused to lie," Daniel replies. That is the qualification. The weight of the moment hits her slowly. Not like an explosion, but like warmth spreading after a long winter. "I do not know what to say," she admits. "Say yes," he says simply. "Or take time. Either way, the offer stands." She swallows, then nods. "Yes." Daniel smiles faintly. Not triumph, not pride, something quieter. "Good," he says. He stands, gathering his jacket. "You should go home. Tomorrow will be busy." Emily rises as well. As she walks toward the door, she pauses. "Thank you," she says, "for listening." Daniel meets her gaze. "Thank you for giving me something worth listening to." She leaves the boardroom with steady steps. This time, she does not feel like she is walking out alone. She feels like she is walking forward. The next morning, the office feels different. Not because the walls have changed or the air smells fresher, but because Emily does. She walks into the building with her head held high, her steps steady. There is a new sense of confidence in her stride, but it is not the arrogance of someone who has won a battle. It is the quiet assurance of someone who knows exactly what they stand for. The elevator ride up to her new office is swift. The floor numbers blink past her fast, indifferent, but she feels as though she is moving through it all with a calm clarity she has never had before. When the doors open, she steps out into a space that feels hers now. The glass walls, the sleek desk, the city stretching out beyond them. There is a sense of ownership here, not just of the space, but of what it represents. Her office is everything she has worked for, everything she almost lost. And now, it is the starting point for something new. She sits behind the desk for the first time, fingers lightly brushing the edge of the smooth wood. There are papers in front of her, but they feel different now. Not like the endless tasks she used to rush through, but like a foundation, a way to build something lasting. Her phone buzzes softly on the desk, and she picks it up, seeing a message from her mother. She smiles to herself as she reads it. A simple message. Proud of you. Always have been. It is the kind of message that makes the weight of all the long nights, the doubts, the setbacks, feel worthwhile. It reminds her that this moment, this change, is not just about her work. It is about what she is building for herself and for the people who believe in her. There is still work to do, still challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long while, she does not feel afraid of them. She feels ready. She opens the documents on her desk, the ones that outline the new initiative she is leading. The papers are fresh, crisp, untouched. And as she looks at them, she sees more than just words on a page. She sees the path forward. She remembers the meeting, the boardroom, the pressure, the uncertainty. And she remembers something else. The truth has a way of finding its voice, no matter how quiet it has to be. And when it does, it changes everything. Her phone buzzes again. This time, it's a message from Daniel Whitmore. I know you're busy, but when you have a moment, let's set up a time to discuss the next steps for your team. Looking forward to working with you more closely. She reads the message and feels a quiet sense of pride. It is not just about the promotion, the office, or the authority. It is about the trust that has been placed in her, the respect that has followed her through the hardest moments of her career. She stands up, looks out at the city below, and breathes in deeply. Today is the first day of everything she has worked for. And it is only the beginning. The door to her office opens, and a colleague steps in, smiling. Emily returns the smile, ready to begin. This time, she knows exactly where she is going.